This is Service to Humanity, and you are welcome to another edition of the program put together to update you on the activities of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. My name is Habiba Zoksok, your anchor. In this episode of the program, we shall be looking at a partnership between the Humanitarian Ministry and relevant agencies to probe compliance level of the NSIP in states. Another story will be a visit to Araromi local government area of Ekiti State to measure the progress and impact of one of the 4 clusters of the National Social Investment Program, the Conditional Cash Transfer. All this and more coming up after the break. Stay tuned. Our program starts with the news highlights. In the lineup, federal government earmarks $1 billion annually for NSIP, just as nearly 85,000 refugees officially get registered. Keep watching.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Ajia Sadia Umar Farouk, has revealed that the federal government earmarked 1 billion naira each year for the Social Investment Program NSIP. Farouk was speaking at the flag-off of grant for vulnerable groups and digitized cash transfer payment in Oshogbo. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Nasir Gwarzo, who represented the minister at the event, said that more than 12 million households have benefited from NSIP interventions in the last 5 years. Farouk added that since taking office in 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari has continued to focus more on raising awareness on the problems of the underprivileged and the disadvantaged. She defined NSIP as a method of promoting social inclusion of the nation's most vulnerable and underprivileged populations.
We've been able to register 84,803 refugees in Nigeria.
The Federal Commissioner of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, says 84,803 Nigerian refugees out of 3.2 million have officially been registered. She disclosed this at the State House in Abuja when she was guest at the 42nd State House media briefing on Thursday in Abuja. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim noted that only 17,334 of this number are ready to return to Nigeria, and that the Commission has begun the construction of 5 resettlement cities in the country for use by displaced persons.
We've begun the piloting phase for the transitional learning centers in 5 locations: Edo, Zamfara, Imo, Bauchi, FCT, and Katsina. In partnership with the National Primary Health Care Agency, we've been able to give persons of concern access to COVID-19 vaccine and also conduct medical outreaches. With the NIDA, we've been able to, we've agreed to pilot a phase of training 10,000 persons of concerns in all areas of ICT skills. This is in line with their own vision to achieve 90% literacy for the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
She also revealed that the Resettlement City project is near completion.
POCs have 3 options of durable solution. They can either locally integrate, or they can resettle, or they can go back to their homes. But sometimes they are unable to go back to their homes, and that's why there's need for building new communities or strengthening the capacity of their host communities. So like I said, we've started, we're in the third phase of our Resettlement City project. We have the pilot phase is in Borno State, Kano, Katsina, Zamfara, and Nasarawa, and then Edo State.
Welcome back. Monitoring and evaluation helps in identifying the most valuable and efficient use of resources. It is critical for developing objective conclusions regarding the extent to which programs can be judged a success. To that end, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has raised the bar by collaborating with relevant agencies and other stakeholders to keep an eye on the compliance level of the national social investment programs. This collaboration formally took off with a stakeholders meeting recently held in Abuja, where all the new partners received up-to-date briefing on the clusters of the NSIP. Let's have that story.
The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has met with stakeholders on the implementation of the National Social Investment Programs, NSIPs, in states across the Federation.
We have the N-Power.
The meeting marked the beginning of the Ministry's partnership with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, Nigerian Securities and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC), and other relevant agencies to probe compliance level of the NSIP in states of the Federation. The meeting, which took place in Abuja, had in attendance the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Dr. Nasser Sani Gwarzo, represented by the Director, Special Needs, Mrs. Nkechi Onwukwe, National Coordinator of the NSIP, Engineer Umar Binder, heads of the NSIP clusters, representatives of the EFCC, ICPC, NSCDC, and other stakeholders.
To lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years.
Delivering his keynote address, Permanent Secretary of the Humanitarian Ministry, Dr. Nasser Sani Gwarzo, said that the primary goal of the ministry is to meet the needs of the people who need a helping hand from government and is therefore targeted at the poorest of the poor and socially excluded members of the society.
The creation of the ministry was necessitated by the compelling need to harmonize, synergize, institutionalize, as well as provide coordination of all government's humanitarian and social interventions. This is in the line with the vision of Mr. President to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years.
Gwarzo then spoke on the successes recorded by the ministry since its inception and the ministry's partnership with relevant agencies to check the activities of the NSIP.
Since inception, we have achieved a lot in the area of provision of effective coordination of humanitarian interventions. In keeping with our mandate, we have also been able to provide coordination through cooperation and partnerships with relevant government ministries, departments, and agencies, development partners, United Nations agencies, and other strategic partners. This all in a bid to ensure sustained and expanded social protection programs, prompt emergency response services, and appropriately targeted humanitarian interventions.
Also speaking, Mr. Chuks Akamadu, President of the Center for Ethical Rebirth Among Nigerian Youth, Sarani, said the ministry has established a foundation of accountability in many of its programs that other MDAs should follow.
Why we are gathered here today is something to cheer about. Something to cheer about because the ministry recognizes the need for it to be accountable, not just accountable, but show sufficient transparency in its activities. I commend the ministry, I commend Mr. President, who had the presence of mind to establish the ministry. I commend the ministry for what they've been doing so far. And I think the foundation of accountability and that of transparency that is being laid by the ministry is something that posterity would love to preserve.
The major activity during the event was presentations from team leads of the various clusters of the NSIP, during which they touched on the genesis and objective of the NSIP clusters, the components of the programs, the target beneficiaries, successes, scope and coverage so far, challenges, etc.
We are trying to make attempt to ensure that over 8,000 wards that we have in Nigeria, as you go in, you must find Empower beneficiaries in the wards. So that means Empower is everywhere. You go to Zamfara State, you find Empower beneficiaries. Go to Akwa Ibom State, you find Empower beneficiaries. Go to every part of Nigeria, you find Empower beneficiaries. And of course, what this means is that we have a target. The target population for Empower is between the age of 18 to 35.
Since 2016 up till now, the school feeding program is growing and going stronger and stronger. Right now, we even have an approval, a directive from Mr. President to expand the program to reach an additional 5 million pupils. So hopefully before the end of 2023, we should be able to feed up to 14 million children, as I've mentioned, including those who will come under the ASP program. JEEP is designed to give credit to the poor and vulnerable people of this country. Poor and vulnerable people who have not had the rights to education, who have skills, who are amongst the vulnerable groups in every society in this country. We know we can find them. And these are people that have some kind of enterprising skills. These are people we see on the roadsides. These are people we know that are resident in our local communities. In every local government, you have a woman who has a skill of either making groundnut oil or making tie and dye, or she knows how to make shoes, or she knows how to sew beautiful clothes. In every community, we find women that have skills. In every community, we have women, young people who have not had the rights, the rights to education, but have some kind of skill, be it vulcanizing, be it bricklayer, or whatever it is.
Under the Conditional Cash Transfer, like I said, also known as Household Uplifting Program, the program provides 5,000 every month to smoothen household consumption, to ensure that at least the families have something to fall back on, something to eat. Then for the top up, this is additional 5,000 given to the household for human capital development, where the family will be able to send their children to school, able to attend healthcare services, able to start 1 or 2 businesses within the household. Then the third component is the livelihood. This is a one-off grant of 150,000 to selective productive households to enable them engage in income-generating activities such that they'll be able to establish a sustainable means of livelihood. The cash transfer program is not self-selective like other programs. There's a database of poor and vulnerable Nigerians built by the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, NASCO. They are charged with that responsibility, and that register is scientifically built using community-based targeting system, where the members of the community set the parameters for who is poor within their communities, and they by themselves identify those who are poor amongst them.
On the homegrown school feeding program, the team lead said mechanisms were put in place for the purpose of addressing complaints on non-compliance, as well as for checking and reporting fraudulent activities.
We created a small team made up of our own ministry personnel, school feeding, the Department of State Security. We do have our own people posted. Then we also worked with, we are currently working with the Civil Defense and also NAFDAC, because they are able to enforce. They are able to go, out on the field. They're able to arrest people. They're able to prosecute and things like that. We also have a school feeding reporting application for the general public. You can go on it, you can see the map, see where the school feeding is happening. You can also report. If you're in your community and you see a school on the program that is not feeding, you should be able to report. Or you notice that, a school is not there, you should also be able to report that.
The team leaders also brought stakeholders up to date also on the journey so far on the various programs.
What we're doing differently in the JEEP 2.0 is to look, we set criteria. The criteria was BVN and NIN. So every JEEP beneficiary was expected to have at least a NIN. You must not have a BVN because we're trying to encourage financial inclusion. So we registered beneficiaries, but we used NIN as a criteria and their phone numbers. When we registered them, those that provided BVN, we sent it to the financial institution. They did a BVN check to certify that that BVN was linked to the name. And we also did a NIN check and we did a credit check. When we did that, the reason why we did that is because we do not want the beneficiary of anchor borrower to come and collect the JEEP loan. We do not want the beneficiary of JEEP 1.0 to come and take advantage and recollect the JEEP loan. We do not want the beneficiary of a NIRSAL agricultural loan to come and collect the JEEP loan. We wanted to increase on the numbers to be able to empower 100 million people out of poverty.
To date, the cash transfer program has enrolled over 1 million beneficiaries, precisely 1,940,325 beneficiary households with over 9 million individual household members across 36 states and the FCT. And all these beneficiaries are being paid.
The meeting was interactive as stakeholders sought for clarification where necessary. Interacting with newsmen, National Coordinator of the NSIP, Engineer Umar Binder, speaks more about monitoring of the NSIP clusters.
The monitoring arises from the implementation structure. The implementation structure of this program is such that we have the federal office under the office of the Honorable Minister. All the implementation structures is at the state level. We have a focal person in every state. We have an NSIP office in every state. If it is to do with conditional cash transfer, we have conditional cash transfer office in every state of the Federation. If it is homegrown school feeding program, we have a program manager who is a state civil servant in the state, in every state. So implementing the program is actually at the state level by the state structures. Therefore, monitoring it and evaluating it is always at the state level. But we have the federal structured monitor and evaluation, which uses what we call as independent monitors at the local level. These are young people who are given 30,000 naira per month and who have been mandated to visit every single element of implementation of this program in their locality, and they submit reports regularly. Above the independent monitors, we have a coalition of non-governmental organizations that is now doing spot checks nationwide. And at the highest level, we have the ministry and other stakeholders, many of whom are here, who are partnering to actually monitor the program.
Some stakeholders also commented on the activities of the NSIPs.
I'm very, very pleased with the compliance check. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps with the Humanitarian Ministry has a lot of things in common. Based on that, I'm sure the Commander General will communicate with the Minister so that we can work together, which we are already doing.
Well, coming here, it's quite an eye-opener, really. I never really thought they were doing this much. So I wish they had done this kind of enlightenment program earlier and more often, so that, and a lot more people can actually be engaged to know what they are doing.
The program is still service to humanity. Still on the NSIPs, we shall be looking at conditional cash transfer, one of the clusters the federal government has continued to use to turn around the lives of so many poor and vulnerable Nigerians. Our crew visited Araromi local government area in Ekiti State to measure the impact of the program. Let's see how that visit went.
Araromi Local Government Development Area is located in Ileyin Ekiti of Ekiti State. Situated between Egede Ekiti and Ado Ekiti in southwestern part of Nigeria, it is one of the many places that have felt the impact of the Conditional Cash Transfer (CCT) program. We paid a visit there to measure the impact of the CCT program, and while on our visit, Alade Adeomi, coordinator of the CCT in the local government, spoke to us on beneficiaries of the program and how activities are carried out.
They are expectant. So even before the payment, even before the mobilization of the CTF from their different villages or community or farm settlement to the town when they want to collect their money, their cash, the cash transfer program, they always quickly get informed. By the time one person is informed that it's likely they pay money this month, they quickly transfer the information. And as my own role, I call the CTF of the different location. They mobilize their beneficiaries in maybe 20, 30, 40, 60. They are the one that will lead them to the point of either their payment, and sometimes because of their level, sometimes we move to their doorstep to pay them, because you know they are aged, or some people that cannot, they don't have work, they are poor mercy.
According to Adeomi, there was a challenge of poor network due to the remoteness of some areas which affected the capturing process. He mentions how he and his team addressed the issue.
There are some places that there is no network. So in operating to search for their household or their details, sometimes it gives us problem. But now we are now, if we appeal to them that there are some places that there is no network, we can just move them to the nearby where we have been able to get network. So there are some farm settlement that there is no network at all, and you have to capture, you have to see their details before you can pay them, because you cannot just be paying based on, so it's the machine that will show their details. So we appeal to them, we beg them passionately to the nearby where we can get accurate network so that the payment will be easy.
Florence Obalusi is a food seller and one of the beneficiaries of the CCT in Araromi local government. She shares with us the impact of the program on her life.
They gave us 5,000 naira, and I added it to the money I use for my business. I sell maize, beans, fish, and meat. I am very happy about the government's intervention. It has helped me achieve a lot in my business, and I want them to continue.
Teresa Oluwatoyin, another beneficiary of the CCT in Araromi local government and a petty trader, also speaks on the impact of the program on her life.
Immediately I received the money, I bought goods like bread, groundnuts, gari and soap to sell. I wish the government will continue to help us so that I will add more goods. I pray that God will help them so they can continue to help the needy.
With that, we come to the end of this week's episode of Service to Humanity. Until I come your way again next week, stay safe. Remember, your questions and suggestions are always welcome on any of our social media platforms or the Ministry's page on Facebook or Twitter. Good night and God bless Nigeria. See you next week.